Society has lied to you all along. You do need an ego because sometimes being humble and quiet doesn't work at all. Hi everybody, welcome back to the Premed Journal. I'm Maria, a 17-year-old, and with this series and with my YouTube channel I'm trying to document my journey toward medicine. So if you like this video or any other video of mine, you can follow me here on YouTube. You can also view my podcast on Spotify on the go. And if you like me as a person and you want to see more from me, you can also follow me on TikTok and Instagram, where I post things that I don't post on YouTube, short content and Instagram posts. So yeah, also I want to give a shout out. I've been sick for the past 3 days and my voice sounds a bit weird. So if there will be more cuts on this video or my voice sounds weird, is because of that. I'm sorry, but I'm trying my best to make this monologue sound coherent and understandable. So okay, getting into today's subject, we're going to speak about the ego, because being going through life and in society, I've seen a lot of instances where people try to diminish your ego or to crush your ego, to humble you. And in today's video I'm gonna explain how having a strong, healthy ego will actually help you to accomplish your goals, because I know the ambitious badass girl is watch my videos, so this is for you. This video will be split into 5 parts. What is an ego? How society diminish women's ego especially. How can you use the ego to accomplish your goals? The downsides of an ego, because it can also have downsides, and how to fix them. And 5, how to create your own ego. Okay, what is an ego? So if you're somewhat interested in psychology, you probably came across this image on Pinterest or on TikTok. So basically, this shows the psychological inner world of a persona. We have the inner consciousness and the outer consciousness. In the center is the self. In the upper part we have the persona and the ego, and in the lower part we have the shadow and the anima, which means soul. We can see in this image that the ego acts like a shield over the persona. But what is an ego? The concept of an ego came from Sigmund Freud, which defined it as an instrument to balance out your moral side from your animal instinct, so you don't go crazy. So basically its job was like a referee to keep you calm, so basically it worked to balance out these two sides, and it was based on a reality testing. Now in modern psychology we see it more as an internal narrator. So basically nowadays an ego is more defined as a manager of your identity, who creates a narrative, a story in your mind that then produces executive functions that organizes your memories, that helps you with focus and a part of your identity. It also helps you to navigate daily life. Okay, so you may ask me, how does this affect women? Well, nowadays having an ego usually has bad connotation. It is defined as having confidence, agency, self-importance, taking up space, and having self-assurance. So, as we live in a society-led patriarchy, in male-leading groups or in romantic context, this is seen as a threat. A woman with a high ego and really good defined ego is viewed as a threat to male-leading groups. So it becomes their goal to crush your ego. Or you may know this as getting humbled. Why? The reasons vary. In majority of cases is to protect men's own ego, and also disrupting a woman's love, interest and internal identity. This doesn't come from nowhere and is just a reflection of our own society patterns and traditions. Because crushing a woman's ego is how you keep her in control, submitted, and with low self-esteem. So, with that being said, how can you create a healthy ego? We define healthy ego by having a sense of identity. So how can you use your ego to accomplish your goal and ignore external noise? Okay, so here we have the power of executive function. From a cognitive perspective, your ego is in charge of an executive function. So basically its job is to keep focus, organize, and do things, start things. Without a strong ego, you get distracted by every little thing around you, by every person around you, by every comment around you. So basically you need a high ego that decides, I'm gonna do this at this time, I'm gonna stay focused, and I'm gonna accomplish this. So a big part of an ego is actually having discipline. So your ego helps with your discipline. It decides when you start doing this, for how long, and it absolutely cancels out the external noise. 2. Reality testing, because here Freud's reality testing concept is actually pretty relevant, because here the reality testing is capable to distinguish between your internal delusions and fantasies and what's actually possible. Because you thinking that you're gonna be a millionaire does not actually become true until you test it out. So basically the ego here says, okay, if I wanna be a millionaire but I'm staying in my bed all day, that's not going to happen. So I need X amount of money, I need to have these skills, and I need to work for X amount of time. So that will result in me doing this action, this action, this action to have this skill, this money, and this time. So this is the reality testing. So it actually puts into the external world what your inner mind fantasizes about. 3. Resilience and defense mechanisms. I think this is the one that people are most comfortable without the defense mechanism. Okay, so the ego can have toxic defense mechanisms as aggressiveness or denial, but it can also have healthy defense mechanisms, mature defense mechanisms. And 2 more popular defense mechanisms are 1. Sublimation. So this basically takes your anger and your violence energy and your negative energy and puts it into somewhat productive, like a workout or a big difficult project. So imagine when you're angry, instead of screaming at other people, you go and you work out, or you go and write a script. This is a healthy defense mechanism. The second one is anticipation. This one you may heard about. So it's basically your ego imagines future challenges and it prepares you for it because it will probably happen. So your brain is already capable to face those challenges because it already solved them in its head. And the last one, the fourth one, is the healthy narcissism or self-efficacy. So in psychology there is this thing called self-efficacy, the belief that you are still capable regardless of outside challenges. So for example, here an ego's role, it's basically, let's say that you failed in a really big project, because when you have really high ambitions and goals, failing is a part of your road. So let's say you failed. Your healthy ego here will say, okay, I failed, but that doesn't make me less of a person, so I'll just try again. So here a really strong ego acts like a buffer. It takes the failure and it creates strength out of it. A fragile ego takes the failure and lets the persona get crumbled. Here to mention that an ego should be approached with matureness and consciousness, because getting out of control, it's really easy. That's why you see men having really fragile egos, getting violent, getting aggressive, or getting offended really easily, because they have fragile egos. They have superficial egos, but that's another discussion. An ego can get toxic pretty fast. So here are some things of a toxic ego and how you can fix them so you can have a healthy ego. One toxic trait of an ego is defensiveness. So basically someone critiques you or your work and you get all offended and defensive, saying no, that you are wrong, this is right, like you get personally offended by someone's critic. And I think a solution for that is detachment. Remind yourself that the work is not the person. So you can take someone's critics to improve your craft, not to crush your soul. Another toxic trait is comparison. So you basically need to be better than that person. Being better than someone else and working constantly to be better than them for a long period of time, because I'm not going to lie, this is a short-term motivation and it can be really powerful, but as powerful as it can be, it can also lead to self-hatred and burnout. So try to do self-referencing. Self-referencing is basically only comparing yourself to the person you were a year ago or yesterday. That way you are the only person in your head. There are no other person, because you're always gonna compare yourself to other people's highlight reel. You're gonna compare yourself to their failures. You're only gonna compare yourself to their successes, which are incomparable to you because you have a different life, a different backstory, a different soul, a different mission. So try to only compare yourself to the person you were a month ago, a year ago, or yesterday. The third toxic trait is fragile superiority. So basically you act superior towards everyone. You act like you know everything. You act like you can do everything. You act like you don't need nobody. But the moment that your ego gets attacked, your persona completely disappears. It gets crumbled. You get humbled. So solution for that is selective and intellectual humility. In some way, select in your mind some things that you don't know about. Don't be afraid to say that you didn't understand this or that you want help with this, because this would actually make you look more mature and actually more intelligent in others people's minds. But beware, because this is not always the case. So you have to select in your mind with who you're going to do this, who you're gonna ask help for, or when you're going to say, hey, I didn't understand this, can you explain it again? The next one is fear of risk. So basically you're afraid to start new challenges because you know that you're not going to be great or the best at it from the first try. So that stops you from even trying or even starting. And the solution for that is to switch your mindset from being the best to being the hard worker. You can not always you cannot always anticipate the outcome, but you can always control your work ethic and your or how much work you put into a project. Okay, the last toxic trait is entitlement. So you basically feel like the world owns your success without you actually doing anything. That's not actually true. To have a healthy ego, you need to have responsibility. So you know that no matter what happens, you are in charge of how much you work and how you handle your emotions. So that puts you the whole fault on you and the whole responsibility of you. You are the only one being responsible for being great. Now that we have the whole scheme drawn out, baddies, how do we actually create an ego? let's start. Okay, so basically, taking in charge that you are watching this video, you probably already have an ego. It's not about creating an ego, it's more about redefining your ego. So, the first step is to create boundaries, and I don't think you understand how important boundaries are, because an ego with no boundaries is basically a house with no fence. People walk in and walk out whenever they want, so here the consequence will be that people will just walk all over you without caring about your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings. So you basically have to define your non-negotiables. You have to define when you end and others begin, because if that line isn't drawn properly, your ego can be crushed like this. 2. Practice agency. So your ego gets built with practice and repetition, so you actually have to give it reasons to believe that it can change the world. So you have to put repetitive effort into what you want to accomplish, or the persona you are in your head. 3. Build a narrative. An ego is basically the story you tell about yourself in your head. If you don't write the story about yourself, your environment will write it for you, and you may not always like what others say about you. 4 is to develop executive function. So instead of just fantasizing about your goal, your ego is your manager and your brain needs to be in charge of all times. So you say, for example, an executive function, I talked about this before. You say, okay, I'm gonna write this, and you actually do it. Then 5 is you need to collect reality data. Your ego is just imagination if it's just in your head. It needs to be grounded in real life. It needs proof that what you say you are is who you actually are. And the last one is to create mature defenses. As we talked before, your ego will get hits. You need to create a shield that doesn't break, because challenges are inevitable in this life. You just need a hard shield. Okay guys, I hope you like this video. Again, I'm sick, so I sound a bit weird. But if you like this video, you can like, and yeah, see you in the next one. Bye!